Yeah, so the shovel-ready stuff, and I did read on here that it says they have to be by 2024, everything has to be expended by 2026. So is the shovel-ready piece because of the parameters from the federal government?
Correct.
That's, okay, that's what I thought. And so I'm not built anything, and so that 2024 is only a year. That's not something that can be done in a year with engineers and.
Well, I'll let David, speak to anything specific regarding the federal regulations in this, but, there's, Commissioners, and when we started this process, we knew we would receive more applications than we have money. And so it's an unfortunate part when you have to pick and choose. That's the reason I think a lot of local governments didn't set up a process like this to give out money to nonprofits, because you know exactly what that. We held back money because, frankly, we didn't know what type of projects we would even receive in the application process. So the idea that when we talk to you about this is to put these application rounds out and then have us look back. We'll do a look back at what projects we saw, and then come back to you and have that discussion regarding how to use those remaining funds. But to your specifics, is that correct?
We emphasized the shovel-ready part. We didn't put shovel-ready anywhere, but we need bids and estimates to know that this could move. And due to we hear about long delays with getting bids and starting projects, and so we're torn in that we want to work with organizations, but there's this timeline hanging over us.
Yeah, but the timeline's 4 years total for expending. 4 years is a long time for even engineers and some delays. 4 years is still a long time for having expended. So
To speak to the large projects, in their application, they will have to give a detailed timeline, and we will have folks from the construction industry, obviously not involved with any of these projects, but from the construction industry to analyze those timelines and let us know if they're realistic.
Commissioner Peters?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Long?
Yes. For the sake of expediency, I would like to suggest that we are getting way in the weeds right here, right now, and that this is a subject matter that requires a lot more thoughtful deliberation and creativity. And I say that because we had an incredible presentation made to us just this week at the Regional Planning Council, and the whole subject matter was food insecurity in Pinellas County. It was fascinating. And I would like to request, Mr. Chair, that we move this subject matter to a workshop where we can talk about the whole idea of food insecurity within our county. I know we're talking about your particular piece and yours, David, but I think that would be a wise conversation for us to have as county commissioners in developing policy going forward.
I think food insecurity, food desert, food issues for the entire is an absolute necessary topic for a future workshop, absolutely. Commissioner Eggers.
You mentioned earlier that, we didn't give them enough direction perhaps in the beginning. And so in my mind, and again, this is just one person speaking, that those extra funds should be prioritized to food organizations that deliver food to various parts of the county. Now, there may be other organizations here that will take exception with what I just said. I'm sure they will. But there's too many on this list regarding food insecurities that we need to be able to try to do something about. Again, I'm just not talking about, we didn't give them direction, and I think that's something that we ought to think about as we look at that next round of.
What is our timeline for the remaining, the leftover, whatever we're calling that fund?
Discussions begin now. We had originally said an announcement would be made early next year in spring, but we're working on that now, and we look forward to working with you all on that, and with staff as well.
Commissioner Peters?
Thank you. I just want to follow up, and I agree with Commissioner Eggers on the food insecurity, but, when I look at what happened with the whole COVID stuff, what really emerged much more than anyone ever anticipated is the amount of the degradation of mental illness and mental health with every single age group bracket, everything. And so I don't want to just say food insecurity only, okay? I really don't, because there's some projects on there, and you know, during COVID, people had, we saw the tele-psych working well, but we still had a whole lot of people that didn't know how to access the system, didn't know how to get help, and the demand for those services is as needy as the 900 people you have waiting, and many of those 900 people need those services too. And so, so I don't want to make a public statement saying that we're going food insecurity when I know there's also some projects on there that are very important within that realm as well. And so, yeah, I think we need a conversation. But when you talk about what came out of COVID, mental health and mental illness became a huge thing that a lot of people, you know, nobody was talking about it, and then all of a sudden it was very clear that was a huge area that really suffered, and what it's going to take to rebuild, well, not even rebuild, but to build a mental health system that can meet the demand for this community is going to be really challenging. So I just didn't want to leave with just.
I wanted to respond to your comment. I agree.
Commissioner Eggers.
I agree 100% with you. And I do think we need to have that meeting that you're talking about so we
agree.
can give some direction. So that we just don't say, go do it. So.
Before we get too far, Mr. Burton, maybe this is for you. I don't know. So have we given parameters on this supplementary fund? I'm making up names for it every time, but
No,
this,
no.
we have given no parameters.
No, the idea was that we're going to get the applications the first couple of rounds. We're going to see what type
Okay.
and see what the demand is,
All right.
and then we can come back to you
All right.
with recommendations regarding future funding rounds.
And that
And
would
that's
be
where
helpful that
you
we
can
could
say,
narrow.
do you want it to be in
Narrow
food
the scope.
insecurity
Narrow
or
the
mental
scope.
health or wherever? Now you have the benefit of all the applications to be able to make that choice.
No, I think that's fair.
Okay, and my last thought is the timeline. So, you know, if we have to expend it by, what was that? Of course, I closed it, 2020.
End of 2026.
So it has to be expended by December 31st of 2026. So should we be firm and fast on that shovel-ready, even though you kind of looked at that but didn't really use that language? Is that something that should be firm and hard on, given that there's a 4-year expenditure timeline?
But they can apply. They
Yes.
have, and we have construction people to look to say, is that a reasonable timeline for the project, depending upon the size of the project.
Okay,
So
so
would
the
have-
real,
they would
the
need
real
a-
thing, we don't want to commit dollars to projects that we end up having to turn back to the federal
and
government.
I
because they
completely
didn't-
understand that, but like, and I'm going to use you as an example because you brought it up. He said I can't go through the expense of getting by Friday to get, you know, where the land is and an engineering bid and all that kind of stuff, where you can write, and I was a grant writer for 10 years, so I get it, just like you get it, and I've reviewed many and scored many. You know, is it possible to write that out? I don't know. Is that, you know, should he automatically just throw his hands up and quit? Because he doesn't, you know, I just worry that we're losing somebody from a perception that might not be real. So I don't know if that perception is real, and I guess that's what I'm asking you. Is his perception accurately, or is that something that he should still pursue?
I turn it over to the community foundation who's setting those out. Go ahead.
For the large projects, they're submitting their timeline and their application, and that will be reviewed by the committee.
Okay.
That's as much as I can give until
Okay.
It
it's
should be
in.
a project that they've thought about to some degree, and at least a sketch out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get that.
Further questions, Commissioner Eggers?
The large projects, not the ones that are here today, have those already been evaluated? They haven't been
The
evaluated.
letters of intent were. So there was a first step to the process that we talked about in July where they would submit preliminary information. They wouldn't have to submit bids, but they would have to say, how ready are you? How close are you to being ready to execute this? What is it? Again, that negative economic impact they had to demonstrate. And we received 78 of those with a total requested of $83 million. Again, a very competitive process. And now they are completed a full proposal where they will attach bids, talk about timeline, permitting, the more nuts and bolts, how are we going to carry this out? Not just the what is it.
So some of those still could drop off that you've preliminarily picked because they don't meet, when you get into the details.
There
is
will be a rank and review committee for those full proposals with 10 million available.
for the ones that you've pulled out.
For the ones that the Rank and Review Committee approved. Recommended for a full proposal to be submitted.
And I'm sorry, I missed it. Did you say, so there was how many? 79?
There were 78 requests submitted with letters of intent for those large
$83 million.
projects. 23 were moved forward.
23.
23, totaling 25 million requested.
Okay. And do we have those? Are you sharing those with the commission?
Yes, they were put into, I'm not sure that the approved letters of intent were, but the the total letters of intent were submitted. We can submit that approved list.
So I have the list of 79, I guess,
And one withdrew.
and one withdrew. But not,
Nonprofit capital project.
are these, the first
So-
section is the moving forward and the second section not moving forward?
No, that was all the small and all the large. We can certainly share that list of the 23.
Just for my own sake, I think we don't want to be involved every step of the way, nitty gritty, but I think what you're hearing today is this commission wants to be involved, aware of the selection process throughout the process. And I'm speaking for me, I don't know if I'm speaking for everybody else, but we're not doing the large projects today. That's the next time we talk about this, and we'll have a thorough work session on that topic before we have it for the regular meeting. Are there further questions, comments, or is there a motion for this agenda item?
Mr. Chair, just a comment.
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to express again to David while he's standing here that I sincerely hope you all would, because I see where you were asking under the small projects for 2 vans to help deliver the meals. And I know that helps you better, because if you don't have all the volunteers you need to get the meals out, at least you have the one driver then to get more meals out than others. So I just really hope that you will, if you have not already done so, communicate with the foundation. I've worked with them and they are helpful, and try to see, where you can beef it up or whatever, because I know that, one person driving can deliver many more meals versus trying to find 6 and 7 individual drivers that could put a couple of meals in their car to get them to the persons.
Thank you very much for that. And both of our requests, large and small, we're all about sustainability and this is to replace fixed costs. I mean, the building request is to replace fixed costs and not pay rent. Say if it's $150,000 a year, that goes towards 150,000 more meals.
Yeah,
Thank you,
That
David.
basically doubles what we do.
Thank you, sir.
thank you.
Anything else?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Flowers, second by Commissioner Long. And I think,
And this is no negativity towards the foundation, it's just
no,
that,
not at all.
This
That-
is what we do.
yeah.
Yeah.
and I think
Hard
that's,
choices.
when you get to this point in the process, unless we're going to go line by line and start moving things around, it gets into very, it's a good thing we don't have a 6 o'clock, because we would be here for days and days and days. But it is, speaking, again, frustrating when you see organizations that you've known, done decades and decades of good work, not on the list, and an organization that you've never heard of. And I think us are mildly involved in the community, that we've heard most of these organizations. If you see one that you've never heard of on there, it raises your eyebrow. So my last 2 cents. We have a motion and a second. Further discussion. Clerk will open the board. Commissioners will proceed to vote.
I'm having trouble again. Yes.
Passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Item 28.
Item 28 is supplemental funding for the 2022 Emergency Communications System. This is a grant that is awarded. This is for the Vesta phone system.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Peters, second by Commissioner Long. Further discussion. Clerk will open the board. Commissioners will proceed to vote.
Yes.
Commissioner Seals, a yes. Passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Item 29.
This is a resolution designating